Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. Happy Monday, everybody. We are excited to be here. I got to tell you guys, man, the news cycle is crazy right now. There's so many things happening. We've got the Schumer shutdown going on, which is a real big deal. Our speaker actually he found some spine and actually told Chuck Schumer, well, literally to shove it with regards to some of the Democrat demands. I'm excited to kind of get into that, but we're going to open the show today, and I'm going to introduce you guys to my new friend Mike Zhao. So Mike escaped communist China and came to this country, made a life for himself, is doing his thing, and as is the case so frequently, people who escape communism, who escape some of these places around the country, become the strongest advocates for freedom. Well, Mike's no exception to that. And Mike's looking around and seeing what's going on in our country and seeing Gavin Newsom and his horrific redistricting. He's seeing the discrimination that's occurring in these colleges that have these horrific affirmative action programs. And he's been speaking out and he's been fighting back. And it's interesting to me. And I think it's a fascinating conversation. I'm actually very excited to talk to him because, what we see here is we're going to see an individual who's, is Asian. He's of Chinese descent, escaped communist China, but who's fought for the freedoms that, frankly, many of us are taking for granted. So I think that's really an important thing, and I'm very interested in his perspective on that. So we're going to open the show. We're going to talk about Mike, what Gavin Newsom's doing to try and steal, every future election in California history, and what's going on with some of these race-baiting colleges, some of these different things. Lots of stuff. A big show. We're going to get to that. I got to talk to you guys. Hey, did you guys know that Tylenol's fighting back? By the way, Tylenol is fighting back and saying that, hey, it's not us causing the autism, which is, listen, at the end of the day, in 1959, Tylenol was made over the counter. Tylenol was available for many years. I'm not saying that Tylenol doesn't contribute to issues, but if we want to go to the root cause, as President Trump and Bobby have said, we got to look at what changed. Well, what changed is in the middle of the 80s, we passed the Vaccine Immunity Act, that's not the proper name, but we essentially provided immunity to vaccine manufacturers from lawsuit. They started making 1 million vaccines, and then autism exploded. Now, does Tylenol contribute to that? Maybe. But what I do know is that we didn't have an explosion in autism until we had an explosion in vaccines. So, take that for what it's worth. I think it's a fair question to ask, what really is the root cause? Tylenol, which became over-the-counter in 1959, or vaccines, which became immune from lawsuits, and the vaccine schedule exploded in the mid-'80s, along with the autism rates. I'm just saying, you guys can figure this out yourselves. I don't want to spoil anything, but lots to talk about today. And of course, before we do a grifter's got a grift, listen, we're fighting all over the country. We got medical kidnapping stuff going on. We've got, I actually have a brand new project I just accepted today. It's a very big one. I can't announce it yet. Big thing. We're going to be fighting back on a pretty profound level. I think this is going to take some globalists by surprise, but really big project coming up. But I need your support. GiveSendGo.com/Renslaw. GiveSendGo.com/Renslaw. Listen, most of the work we do for free. We can't charge people. Most people can't afford a lawyer for a lot of this stuff. So I give away a ton of my legal work, a ton of my consulting, a ton of my work. And I do that to try and help our country, but I can't do that without you. I've got to have your support. GiveSendGo.com/Renslaw. If you want us fighting, if you want us to do what we're doing, we've got to have your support. Also, go to TomRenz.com, www.tomrenz.com. You find everything Tom Renz there. You find podcasts, the shop, everything. But check out our shop and then partners and affiliates. We have the best partners and affiliates there are. Right there at the top, we've got men's hormone support, which I use. Listen, by the way, you need to get on this. You need to stay on it. Its effects are cumulative. It builds over time. It really makes a difference. You want to stay on this, give it a couple months. What'll happen is you'll just start feeling better. Much more energy. It'll help kind of eliminate some of the toxins that keep your testosterone level out of whack. If you're a man, especially if you're over 40, or if you're a woman who has a man over 40, you need to get them on this and you need to stay on it. You can check our link there. You can also check out Block Trust. We love Block Trust. But today I want to really kind of scroll down. Our focus for today is Rocasa. Listen, Rocasa, I brought Rocasa on as an affiliate because, well, honestly, they had some things that I thought would, appeal to the ladies that listen. We got a lot of ladies that listen to us. But it's turned out that I actually kind of like these guys. They've got everything. They've got soaps. They've got supplements. Personally, here, if you click on them, you see they've got a women's hormone kit, by the way. But there's all sorts of wonderful things here that you can check with these guys. And, I really like this tart cherry sleep support and their elderberry immune support. Great products. You take a tablespoonful before bed and it helps you to sleep or helps your immune support. Wonderful products. So make sure you're checking out Rocasa. They have things that make your house smell good, all sorts of stuff. Just a wonderful, all organic products, all wonderful stuff. Just good people. So make sure you're checking them out. All right. So Gavin Newsom is doing what Gavin Newsom does, which is to essentially try and, destroy freedom. And right now he's doing that by focusing on a new redistricting proposition. My new friend, Mike Zhao, is fighting back on this. And so let's bring Mike on and hear what's going on in California as well as elsewhere. So Mike, let's bring Mike, Mike, our producer, let's bring Mike on. Mike, how you doing today, sir?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm honored that you take the time. I want to open up, and I introduced you in the show intro, but I want to say, so Mike, you escaped communist China, and you saw firsthand what was going on there. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, basically, I grew up in communist China under dictator Chairman Mao. During Chinese Cultural Revolution, my father suffered political persecution. He lost freedom, was tortured, for 5 years, and then that political persecution did not stop at him. My grandparents, their only, crime was, used to be a landlord. They were deprived of the life to continue living in the capital city of Yunnan province. They were expelled into mountain village, a few hundred miles away from Kunming, my hometown. And a few months later, my grandma suffered a heart attack. And due to a lack of medical treatment, she passed away very soon. My family endured extreme poverty, loss of loved ones, and until 1978, when China had a open and reform policy, and I came to America in 1992 as a foreign student. At that time, I had only that was 3 years after Tiananmen Square incident. I was able to escape communist China. I came to America, and then, I achieved my American dream. I, work hard and smart. I later became director of global planning at Siemens Energy. I achieved my American dream. After that, I began my mission, to defend the American dream, between 2014 to 2023, over the 10 years, I have been working with many Asian American advocates, mobilizing Asian communities, supporting students for fair admissions lawsuits against Harvard. In 2023, we won the battle. I actually testified in the US Congress on behalf of the whole Asian community. Today, actually, we have another chance to defend the American Constitution, fighting against Proposition 50, by California Governor Gavin Newsom.
Well, listen, I just want to thank you, right? So I want to start out, I want to thank you. I think so many Americans, we grew up with so many freedoms. We grew up with so many things that I think a lot of people take for granted. you've come to our country. You did it the right way. You came in as a student. You earned your position. You became a citizen, and you have then fought for the freedoms that so many of us take for granted. I wish more natural born citizens fought like this, and so thank you for that. And I suppose that when you see the kind of poverty, and you mentioned poverty and torture and some of the horrible things that happened under the CCP, that does motivate you, and you don't want to see that stuff come here. So you started out and you fought against some of the affirmative action stuff. So let's start there. For anybody that doesn't know, obviously it's illegal to discriminate based on race. Now, for many of us, we think that, we always think about this in black and white terms because, we had great leaders like Martin Luther King who brought forth and really kind of brought to the limelight, racial discrimination. And a lot of the great leaders in terms of the anti-racism fight were black. But racism existed across the board for many years. There were a lot of races that were enslaved or treated as subhuman. And, we overcome that. We passed the 14th Amendment. We passed a bunch of laws saying that you can't discriminate based on race. And then the Democrats do what the Democrats do, which is to essentially say, well, we don't really want to discriminate on race, so we're going to discriminate on race to do that. And what they did was they started these affirmative action programs. One of the areas that the affirmative action programs have really demonstrated hypocrisy is in school admissions. And what we've seen is some of our major schools, like Harvard, were discriminating against people based on the color of their skin. And everybody says, well, that's just white people. No, it's not just white people. They actually discriminated against Asian Americans as well. Isn't that right?
Yes, that is true. Actually, before the affirmative action was struck down by the U.S. Supreme Court, for Asian, applicants to come to get admitted in a top American university, this student has to score 140 points higher than the white, 270 points higher than Hispanic, and 450 points higher than a black. This is according to the study by Princeton University, Professor Thomas Espenshade and his assistant. So that is one example. And actually, it's a shame Chinese Americans suffered like Chinese Exclusion Act in 19th century. But today, Democrats, still use affirmative action to discriminate against, Chinese, Japanese, or Asian Americans, along with white Americans.
Well, and let's be real clear about what's happening here, right? Because one of the things that we need to understand is that the discrimination isn't just against white people. A lot of people say, well, you're white, so who cares, right? You're privileged. Mm-hmm. But the thing about this is, as you said, Asians had to actually score 140 points higher than even white people to get into the same university. There was no more discriminated against group than Asians for Harvard admission for some of these top universities. And the thing about this is you got to understand it was based on the color of your skin. If you were Asian, it didn't matter whether you were Chinese, whether you're Japanese, it didn't matter where you came from. What it mattered is what you looked like. If you were called Asian, you had to perform way, way, way better than a white or a black, or pick your Latino, or pick your race. This was 100% racial discrimination, right?
That is correct. Actually, Democrats, they are the party who betrayed the dream of Dr. Martin Luther King, right? Dr. Martin Luther King famously said, I don't want to be my little children be judged by the color of her skin, but by the content of their character, right? So we are really a supporter, really the follower of Dr. Martin Luther King. We don't want our children be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character, also by the merit how solid the academic foundation, how the actual curricular activities, how they perform, right? We want they've been judged by merit, really meritocracy, not really by the skin color.
Well, that's the truth of the matter, right? I mean, at the end of the day, the only way to actually end discrimination is to end discrimination. And that means that merit is the only basis for determining whether or not you make it in to a college and to, whatever. Because if we consider your skin color, then we're immediately, we're racist. It doesn't really matter how you weight it; it's still racism. And meritocracy is the only way to objectively eliminate racism. But that's what you advocated for, which is precisely what the Constitution requires and precisely what the law requires. So now you were successful, Mike. You guys won this, and we no longer have that sort of an affirmative action program occurring, right?
Yes, that is correct. Thanks to the leader of Student for Fair Admission, Mr. Edward Bloom, he took the legal lead to launch a legal battle. Right, we as an Asian community we support him wholeheartedly. But I want to also mention one more thing. Right now, the radical left they are not giving up. What they did is they eliminate many standardized testing. They remove the objective measurement, so they can use more subjective criteria to use a hidden kind of discrimination against top performers from Asian communities, from white communities, from the communities they claim so-called overrepresented.
So they're now, and this is actually news to me. So they are now. Actually eliminating a lot of the standardized testing and eliminating a lot of the things so that they can essentially work around and still implement discriminatory policies?
Yes, that is correct. After in 2024, Yale University, right? They use called risk proxy. They use some kind of third party tool. Really try to say in the communities what's the mobility of different racial group, so they can use that to identify some communities maybe Black, Hispanic, or have more upward mobility. Basically, they would admit more of them, right? So actually, they use this kind of thing to really circumvent the Supreme Court ruling. So that is not acceptable. Actually, another organization called Asian American Coalition for Education, we filed a civil rights complaint against Yale University this May. We'll continue fighting to restore the meritocracy in American colleges. But we, like myself, my work does not stop there. I've been fighting against anything in violation of our American Constitution. We fight for freedom. We fight for democracy. Fighting against Proposition 50 is really a fight, for the democracy in America.
Well, thank you for that fight, Mike. And let's talk about it. Let's move into it. So tell me about Proposition 50 and tell me about what's going on with that.
Yeah, basically, Proposition 50 was the one initiated by California Governor Newsom. He wants to change the congressional redistricting, California, a congressional district further skewed towards the Democrats. I gave you example. In 2024, over 38% of California voters voted for President Trump, right? But in the U.S. Congress, there are 53 of the there are 52 of congressional representatives. Only 9 of them, which is only 17% of them, are Republican. So, they already screwed the Democrats' representation in U.S. Congress, but they are doing redistricting, try to get 5 more seats for Democrats, which means Democrats will represent over 92% of Californians, right? We have this kind. This is not, for democracy. That's a violence, against democracy. A very important thing I want to point out is a betrayal of the citizens' will in California. Why? In 2009, California passed Proposition 11. In 2010, California passed Proposition 20. Both required the congressional redistricting, the right to be determined by an independent citizens committee. But California Governor Newsom want to change it back, want to take away the citizens' rights, put it back, give it to Democrats. So that is the reason we called, we are Chinese American for Constitution. Is we try to restore, defend the Constitution.
Well, again, thank you for that. So Newsom's basically trying to remove any sort of independent oversight on any sort of redistricting so that he can gerrymander the state in a way where there will be nothing but Democrats everywhere. And I mean, if you look at the geography of California, if you just for everybody that doesn't know, because everybody knows, California is a blue state, but if you look at the geography, most of the state is very red. You have a few blue pockets in the cities. The cities are very blue, but the state itself has a lot of very, very red areas, and basically Newsom is now trying to redistrict in a way where those people will not be represented in any way, shape, or form because they'll include enough of the cities in each of these weirdly drawn districts to overcome any sort of red vote.
That is unfortunately correct. In California, there are many farmers. They want to have water, right? They want to, have protections. They want to have federal policies to help them grow the agricultural product. However, Newsom, they already took away their rights, this kind of representation. If they succeed in Proposition 50, they're going to further take away their rights. So, like example, the wildfire in California. That's one because, there's no really the good representation of California farmers in the federal government, right? Another thing I want to point out, Governor Newsom over the last, many his terms, he implemented radical policy that harms not only farmers, also Asian communities, right? They numerous times try to reintroduce affirmative action into California. They try to impose DEI, really discriminate against Asian. That's number one. Number two, his policy is very soft against crime. So many Chinese, Asian Americans have been frequently robbed, some been murdered because he's soft on, on the crime policies. They also have radical LGBT policies, and also California. A few years ago, California ran a good budget surplus, but right now they're running into deep deficit. Why? Because Governor Newsom wastes taxpayers' money, gave to illegal immigrants for Medicare, for healthcare, and many other benefits like in-state tuitions, right? So he is, making California in decline. So many businesses, so many peoples are leaving California. So this fight is not only to restore the California Constitution, also to restore California's future.
Well, it's an absolute necessity that it's done. Now, let me ask you, so we've been told that if you are a person of color, you're discriminated against. I mean, the basis for DEI is because anyone who is of color is discriminated against and held back. Mike, you're the case study here that this is absolute hypocrisy. They're not at all interested in people of color. They're interested in creating division. If they were interested in a level playing field, they certainly wouldn't be discriminating even more against Asians than whites. Tell me about this. Is this something that's widely recognized in the Asian community? Do you guys see the hypocrisy here?
Yes, absolutely. Actually, what happened in Democratic Party is they try to implement the so-called the racial equity. Basically, is a racial quota, right? If you hard work, if you outperform other racial group, they will not accept you. So there are also some Democrat supporters blaming Asian to have white primacy, like a white privilege. Chinese American, Asian Americans never had any political power. How could we have privilege? About 1 century ago, we were discriminated by Chinese Exclusion Act. We were discriminated by the Japanese entertainment, right? Yeah. But because our children are hardworking and we are, high performing in terms of economic achievements, they just categorize Asians as the white, say Asians have white privilege. So they are really like hypocrisy. They're not for the so-called people of color. I want to tell you one story. Last Sunday, when a few of my supporters were waving the sign in the highway, bridge on the highway, on the highway in San Diego, they were harassed, insulted by Governor Newsom's support. One lady walked, out of her car, yelling at them, and during the verbal conflict, the lady called them, say, "Go back to China." Think about that.
Oh, wow.
The Democrats claim they're a party for immigrants, but they are only the party for the immigrants who, obey them to really support their rule. If any people have different opinion like me, they are not inclusive. They're not for us. They're just for their power. That is true hypocrisy.
Well, it's appalling. I mean, at the end of the day, go back to your country. Wow. You talk about racist. Here's the thing, though. I would argue that communism is a form of slavery, right? You're enslaved to the government. And what the CCP has done is enslaved the people of China to the government. You certainly can't speak out. You don't own anything. The government owns everything. You have no freedom to do anything. That seems very akin to slavery to me. It's slavery, we're all owned by the government on some level. Do you think that having left and having broken away from communist China, do you think that's a fair characterization?
Yes, absolutely. Especially under dictator Chairman Mao. They basically, that time, Chairman Mao deprived people's rights to have a private ownership, to run a private enterprise. Everything was rationed. Everything was under government planning, right? And they also, this reminded me the current mayor candidates of New York, right? Here Mandani. He promised that we have government-owned groceries, free, subways, a lot of free stuff. And at that time, Communist Party gave urban citizens, kind of everybody gave the job, but everything were paid by seniority, not by performance. You guess what? They deprived people's motivation to produce, to innovate. So everything was in shortage. Rice, clothing, everything was rationed. And for when I was in teenage, every urban citizen only get 2 pounds, 1 kilo, basically about 2 pounds of meat for the whole month. Even with that, I had to wake up, like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, waiting in the queue for many hours to buy, 1 or 2 pounds of meat. That kind of a disaster. So all the communists did, economically destroy a nation. Also, as you said, politically deprived any freedom, people may have, So that is the kind of communist I think I want to share with your audience. Actually, a few years ago, I also published a book, compare what's happening in America under Joe Biden with Chinese Cultural Revolution, like political indoctrination, cancel culture, right? Rewriting the history, many aspects, like top-down or founding father statue. So I want to tell you, based on many scholars study, the radical left, their root, it has the same root of communism.
100%. I see the parallels, and I think it's remarkable. Mike, I appreciate everything you're doing, and I think I'd love to have you back. This is actually a very fascinating conversation with me. How can people support you? How can they support your work fighting against the Democrat racism that we're seeing across this country, and for the Constitution in general? How can people support you?
Yeah, please visit our website called caforconstitution.org. So CA can be, can be like standard for Chinese American for constitutions, and also can California for constitution, the same thing, CA for constitution.org. But thank you for your interview. Thank you for your, invaluable support.
Well, I listen. CA for the Constitution.org, CA4theConstitution.org. Folks, listen, we've got people who are fighting for your country. You got to support them. You got to support them. So make sure you're supporting Mike. Mike is out there fighting for us. And Mike, I want to thank you again for being here. I appreciate your time, and I hope you can come back again soon and join us again. So thank you.
Okay. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. There you have Mike Zhao. Listen, we all ought to be fighting as hard as Mike is. We need to have more people fighting like this. I'm grateful, but it's not surprising to me. I mean, like I say, you see guys people who come from places where you don't have our rights, you don't have our freedoms. They tend to not take it for granted as much as all of us who were born here do. If Mike's looking at his family being tortured, and he's looking at 2 pounds of meat per month, and he has to stand in a queue to get it, and he's looking at the universal government health care from the Communist Chinese Party results in loved ones dying because they can't get treatment for a heart attack. I mean, these are real life stories. That's what communism does for you. You got Mandani up in New York wants to usher this in. Well, good luck with that, folks. Good luck with that. It's an important thing for us to hear about, and I'm glad to talk about it. All right, so we got to move forward. I got a few other things we got to hit today. Who doesn't love AI? Who doesn't love AI? I do kind of, I get a boot out of ChatGPT and Grok and some of these others. But, at the end of the day, there's a lot of problems with it. And we keep empowering it to do everything because no one wants to think anymore. So everybody's very excited to have AI do the thinking for them because they're lazy. Well, let me show you this tweet. This is newly released body cam. AI mistakes Doritos bag for a gun. So cops in Baltimore stormed Kenwood High School because there was an AI system that flagged what it thought was a gun. It wasn't a gun. It was a Doritos bag. But, they thought it was a gun, so it calls police. Now, there was a human reviewer that eventually marked this up and said, nope, it's a Doritos bag. But the cops didn't get the message. So they come in, cops come storming in. They think there's a student with a gun. And this is a scary situation, folks. Now, here's the cops cam. I'm going to play this while we're listening.
Did you have a gun on you?
No. I'm going to mute it. But you see this guy in cuffs. You see all this stuff going on. Now, this guy didn't have a gun. He had a Doritos bag, right? And understand something, that this kid The cop says, thanks for not running away. That would have been a real problem, right? So the cops, if this kid would have gotten scared and ran away, cops may have shot this kid. This wasn't an AI mistake. This is an AI tragedy that was averted through nothing but luck. This kid could have been scared. Someone could have been scared. It could have took nothing for this to have turned into a shooting, of an innocent kid because the AI made a mistake. Listen, I understand AI is coming. I understand we can't stop AI, but we really need to think for ourselves a little bit. And, the number of people I see, anything I ask people to do, I get a chat GPT back. I don't want a chat GPT. I want you to use your brain. I want you to think it through. It's not happening enough, folks. We're giving away all of our thought process. We're giving away everything. And in this case, this could very well have been a crisis. This could have been a tragedy where some kid gets shot because the AI made a mistake on a Doritos bag. Not okay. Not okay at all. So we're going to stop this. I don't need to play anymore. You see the cops walking around. Look at how serious this could have been. Look at this. They're looking at the AI.
Yeah.
It could have been a crisis. So thank God it was averted. Let's bring this up here while we got us up on the screen because we got another one. So Speaker Mike Johnson, by the way, that AI, that's the same AI that they want to run your healthcare system. The same AI that thinks a Dorito bag is a gun. Pretty soon it's going to be diagnosing and treating you for whatever your disease is. And they're going to be... don't worry, they're going to design 48-hour cancer vaccines that I'm sure will be totally safe and effective. So, there you have it. All right, so Mike Johnson. Now, I'm going to tell you guys, I bust Mike Johnson's chops a lot. I think he's been feckless. I think he's been weak. I think he's sold out over and over again. Is he growing a pair? That's the real question we need to ask ourselves. This is the question. Is Mike Johnson growing a pair of testicles? Now, I don't know if I want to go so far as to say that he is growing an actual pair. Maybe he's got two little nubs growing out there or something. But the real question we have to have is Mike Johnson finding his testicles? Or does he have them? Is he growing them? Are they there? I don't know. But, we've got this Democrat-inspired shutdown, and typically the Republicans just bend over backwards to try and end the shutdown. Whatever you guys need. We can't have a shutdown. Oh, my God, a shutdown. Well, Johnson's holding pretty strong on this, and I got to give credit where it's due, and I want to thank the Speaker for doing it. He's showing some fortitude here. And so apparently the story is Johnson told Schumer to shove it because Schumer wants to do some sort of backroom deal. Here, let's play some video here. Let's play this video. I'll show you what this is. Let me make this big. Make it big, and here we go.
Again, in healthcare, you will improve its quality and you will bring down its cost. All of these are important components of that, and we have a lot of work to do, but it is not a simple thing. And I am not going to go in a back room with Chuck Schumer, like he keeps demanding, with 4 people and make this decision. I will not do it. It's not appropriate. It's not right. It's too complicated for that. We need all the members to have buy-in. We need to have these healthy debates and discussions. But we can't do it while they're shutting the government down to appease the Marxist. That's it. That should be your headline.
There you go. There you go. That is a big deal for Mike Johnson. I'm going to tell you guys, I'm impressed. Johnson is not exactly known for telling the Democrats to go to hell, but he kind of did there. This is huge. Folks, Obamacare's got to go away. The Obamacare is the reason we had COVID. We couldn't have had COVID without Obamacare. There's going to be another COVID. If we shut down Obamacare and we can move into something new, better, then we can actually, potentially not have another COVID. I don't know what's going to happen. But what I do know is that we've got this debacle that's Obamacare, and it eliminated private doctors. It created an electronic medical record, so everything's track and trace. All the bad parts of Obamacare need to go away. There can be no demand on any of this, but this is the foundation of the shutdown, right? Schumer wants to drag out Obamacare. He wants more ACA subsidies. He wants all these different things. And Republicans are fighting back saying, listen, we don't want this crap. We don't want it. It's a disaster. Meanwhile, you've got right here, adding fuel to the fire is another ticking clock. Funding for SNAP. SNAP is food stamps, boys. SNAP is, so 42 million Americans. 42 million. Guys, 42 million people are on food stamps. How big of a mess are we if 42 million are on food stamps? And we are. The economy's in shambles. I'm sorry. And here's the deal. I think Trump is doing the stuff to get the economy moving again. I think we're going to see the economy pick up. But we all knew, and I talked about it on this show, when the Republicans sold out and passed all these continuing resolutions and funding bills before Trump got into office, just to appease the Democrats and prevent a shutdown. Remember 2024, just before the end of the year, the Democrats got their clean bill, kept funding where it was. The Democrats have essentially ensured, and the Republicans helped, that because funding was kept where it needed to be at Biden levels, that the Biden agenda and the Biden economy was going to continue for the first year of Trump's presidency. That's what's happening. Now, the president is talking about how great the economy is. It's not. It's a disaster. But it isn't Donald Trump's fault. It's the spending, it's the nonsense, it's the garbage that occurred at the end of last year. Now, Trump's done a remarkable job of undoing a lot of this. And listen, I don't agree with the president on certain things. I don't like what he's doing with digital ID. I don't like his position on mRNA. I don't like that he's got Anthony Bourla or Bill Gates in the White House. I don't like some of these things, but I love what he's doing on other things. I think he's making the right moves on the economy, short term. Now, the president's support for AI is going to be the long-term disaster for the economy, because unless we protect human jobs, there won't be any human jobs. But in fairness to the president, if we don't win the AI race, America's dead anyway. So we're going to have to all figure out what we're going to do with this AI situation as it comes through. But regardless, I think in the short term, at least, the president's doing a good job on the economy. So 42 million people are on food stamps. 42 million. That leads me to this post. Let's bring this up if we could, Mike. I want to show everybody this. This is Brittany Hughes. She says, and I would agree with her, it should be uncomfortable to live off food stamps purposely. You should walk into the store and be unable to buy 90% of it. You should have access to the healthy basics and actively desperate to get off EBT because of how restricted it is. That's not what's happening. Now, I don't know about 90% of it, but I don't think that it should be easy. Now let's look at this video. This is a food stamp video. Let's take a peek here.
You want to know why I'm not having an aneurysm over people losing their food stamps on November 1st? Here's why.
Come grocery shop with us. It go by faster. One of you. This is what I pick, and this is what he picked.
I tell you what, how about this instead? If you're on food stamps, you get a pre-selected box of meat, bread, rice, food staples, and fruits and vegetables. No more handing you a debit card filled with other people's cash for you to go load up on Oreos. The goal here is to keep you from starving, because taxpayers do not need to bankroll your junk food pantry or your health problems.
I mean, I don't know that I can argue with that. And I'm going to tell you guys something. So that anybody wants to say this. I have been poor enough in my life where I've had to use food stamps. I have. I've been dead broke, and I've been there. And I'm going to tell you that, yeah, it shouldn't be the way it is now. Now, it's been many years, but I will tell you, the way it is now, I mean, food stamps, you get to eat better than people who aren't on them. I mean, it's ridiculous. I look at that $338 bill. I mean, it's going to last what, a couple of weeks? I mean, I don't know. It depends on how many kids are in that house. But the food stamp situation is something where it's so comfortable, it's so good. I mean, it's like winning. Why wouldn't you want to be on food stamps? What's wrong with that? What's the downside? And it's a little bit much. I think it's a debacle. I think it's a disaster. And I think this Brittany Hughes has a very good and valid point. So, all right, let's go to Tylenol. So Tylenol is now fighting autism claims. They are slamming a proposed FDA warning label as unsupported by science. This is really important and interesting. I almost wonder if Bobby didn't plan this. So the FDA has decided that that Tylenol is the cause of autism, which is absurd. Donald Trump told us the root cause of autism. It's the vaccines. There's no question about that. Now, are the vaccines made worse if you take Tylenol? Maybe. But here's the reality. In 1959, Tylenol was made over the counter. I keep saying this. There was no rise in autism. If there was, it was minimal. It was still 1 in I don't know how many thousands of kids until the mid-'80s when we passed the vaccine immunity law that allowed vaccine manufacturers to put this poison out with no immunity. Now, we passed that law because vaccine manufacturers said all vaccines are inherently dangerous and we can't make them unless you give us immunity. Okay. So we give them immunity. They start making 1 million new vaccines that are even more unsafe. And suddenly autism explodes. There is no corporeal, no time-based association between the Tylenol being made over the counter and an explosion in autism. However, there is very clear time-based association between the vaccine schedule exploding and autism exploding. That's about as clear as day. Now, does that prove that vaccines cause autism? No. But it sure is suspicious, and it would be interesting to study it and see. I don't know why there's no studies. We'd think these gold standard studies everybody's talking about, I think there'd be a few, right? Now, we've seen studies that show that kids are healthier without vaccines. We know that. We just saw the inconvenience study released. But, this is one of those things where, Tylenol makes this company, Kenvue, about $1 billion a year. It's their big product, right? And now they're being urged to put a warning label for pregnant women and I think in babies and their care providers, against it. Folks, if I was Tylenol, I'd be pissed too. I'm going to be honest with you. I would be very pissed. They're taking the fall for something that everybody knows. And it's really an interesting thing because if Tylenol fights back on this, their defense isn't all that complicated. Listen, there was no explosion in autism until the vaccines. I would love to see Tylenol make that argument in the court. I would love to see that put before the court because it's true. Tylenol is now in the best position in the country to challenge the vaccine narrative. I hope like hell they do. I don't know that they will. If they're thinking about it, I'm sure someone will buy them up, or we'll see some Kenvue executives who die mysteriously. But I would love to see us actually do something with this and dig into this because to me, it's pretty manifest what's happening. I don't think it's that complicated. Like I said, autism is, what it is until the mid-'80s. Then the vaccine schedule explodes and so does autism. I don't know, folks. Just seems pretty blatant to me and pretty open. All right, speaking of fraud and science, headline, lawsuit seeks data behind taxpayer-funded study that undercuts support for puberty blockers. Okay, so there's a study that was funded by the NIH. So we give money to this Dr. Johanna Olson Kennedy, who led the Pediatric Gender Clinic at Children's Hospital Los Angeles, right? So she is a big doctor fan of genital mutilation and hormone mutilation, all these sorts of things with kids. Now, she gets a grant where she's going to show how wonderful puberty blockers are for the health and safety of kids. Does the study. All of a sudden, she refuses to publish the results. I wonder why. Well, the reason is because it could, quote, undermine the argument for gender-affirming care. At least that's what the Times reported Dr. Olson Kennedy's decision was based on. So we do the science. The science doesn't come out the way that the crooked scientist wants it to come out. And what do? We bury the results. She doesn't want to tell anybody the results. She doesn't want anybody to know what's happening. Okay. So what's that mean? Well, that means that our taxpayer-funded study results are hidden. So this group, AAF, decides to file a lawsuit, and they're looking at this. Folks, this is one of the most important lawsuits in recent history because this is going to demonstrate another instance of scientific fraud. I'm guessing that they ought to be able to get access to this data. And when they do, the question's going to be, does this show what we think it's going to show? And I'm pretty sure the answer is that it does. And that is that these puberty blockers are horrific and have a terrible, terrible, terrible outcome for children. Imagine that. Getting your wiener destroyed chemically is going to cause a problem. Who would have thunk it, right? So anyways, the FDA has been dodging this and playing games with it for quite some time. I think this lawsuit might actually move the ball down the field. We'll see what happens. But I do know that I'm, very eager to see what happens here. So, all right, moving on. Headline, X rolls out profile country display to fight bots and misinformation. So X now is going to have country display for your profile. Now, you can opt out of it. But if you do, we can kind of tell that you're not from the U.S. And it's a pretty clear thing. So here's the deal. I think this is wonderful because if you're opting out on this and then you're not from the U.S., okay, that's fine. You can do that. But we should view your account with some skepticism. I love that this, listen, I got no problem. I'm from the USA. I got no issue here. Why should I have an issue with that? So, the only people who are going to have an issue with this are people who are doing things that they don't want known or that they don't want anybody to know they're a part of. I mean, this is an absolute no-brainer. And I think it's just a really good bill or a good idea. And hope to see it done, frankly, soon. So, all right, let's see here. Looking la la. All right, let's finish with this story. Let me play this. Mike, can we put this on the screen? Let's put
brown skinned people.
Let's put this video on the screen. This is retarded. Let's listen to this.
I'm gonna need y'all to be careful with how y'all celebrate Halloween because pumpkins really indicate how they took the slaves' heads and skulls and put lights inside of them, just like how they'll do a jack-o'-lantern. So be careful how you celebrate these devilish white man holidays. Halloween is Devil's Day. I'm telling y'all. Pumpkins are a symbol of what they did to our people, indigenous people, brown-skinned people. They put fire inside of their skulls and lit it and hung it from trees. So do your research before you think a pumpkin means Halloween.
Okay. This moron says that they used to put fire inside of black people's heads and hang them from trees, and that's what Halloween means. That's not true. This is now being widely debunked, but it's interesting because this person's a moron. And this person is a moron. I have no idea who said this, but they're just, the idiocy is mind-blowing. Anyways, the reality is that the whole jack-o'-lantern thing, I looked it up, it stems from an Irish folk tale about Stingy Jack. And he tricked the devil and was condemned to wander the earth with actually as a turnip lantern, later evolved into a pumpkin. But this was an old thing. It predated even National Geographic notes that this predates transatlantic slave trade, and that there's just no evidence at all on this. So more misinformation by a leftist lunatic racist who wants to make everything about race, even when it's clearly not, seems to be the way of things these days. So, all right, guys, I appreciate you listening. We will be back tomorrow, and big shows this week, so stick with us. Thank you.
Thank you for watching The Tom Renz Show. Join us live Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern, putting an axe in the skull of tyranny.
The MAGA revolution in cryptocurrency is here, reclaiming financial freedom for every American. Tired of globalist banks and deep state control? Blockchain is our weapon for sovereignty. Be a step ahead with Animus AI technology. Ranked #1 worldwide, exclusively available through Block Trust IRA. But beware, the wild ride volatility and scams lurk. Yet, with Trump-era policies like the Genius Act, we're tokenizing prosperity for veterans and the heartland. Globalist elites are panicking as leftist-controlled banks scrabble in the dust as MAGA investors access revolutionary technology. Reclaim your freedom with Block Trust IRA.
Join the fight to protect your wealth. Go to TomRunsCrypto.com and talk to Block Trust IRA now.
Listen live to The Tom Renz Show Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern.